once upon a time, the Alms was a very grand hotel, okay? And when it was sold off and then chopped up, as they do when they provide housing in little bitty units and whatnot, what first fell into disrepair were the unused areas. We had a ballroom that hosted, probably could get 1,000 people in there. That's the first thing they abandoned. And what happened was they boarded it up. No one went in to check on the actual physical structure, so the roof caved in, and all the beautiful cove ceilings with all the relief plaster work that nobody does anymore, a lot of it got damaged.
The old owner did exactly nothing.
We went from being the victims of a slum landlord who was absentee, who didn't care, who took all of the federal funds and put them in their pockets and nothing back into the structure, which is how a structure comes to be in a condition of disrepair.
The ownership structure would make regular claims that they were spending lots of money to fix the property, but people's experience showed that that wasn't true, that there were still, folks still had to jump out of the elevator, as it stops halfway between floors. People still have water pouring through and cabinets falling off the wall and holes in walls that children can walk into and windows that don't close through the entirety of winter, and major harassment from ownership.
We were losing hope. We were thinking like, oh, they're gonna put us out. That rumor was rampant in everybody's mind. And let me tell you something. It's a horrible feeling to lay down at night with that thought on your mind, thinking, how long do I have before they take this away from me? And that's a sickening thought that everybody in this building, when they lay down, that thought was on their mind, because it was a reality for us. But we fought. That's the key. We fought. And when you fight, you got just a good chance of winning as anybody else.
Legal Aid had 2 clients in the building that were dealing with conditions issues in their apartment, and so a couple of attorneys from Legal Aid went to look at the conditions, and the building manager at that time met them in the hallway, began really harassing them and the tenant that they were meeting with, followed them upstairs to this person's apartment, barged into the apartment uninvited, pushed one of the attorneys. And so at that point, Legal Aid contacted us and said, we think the problems here are much bigger than just 2 people's experiences. And so we'd like for the Homeless Coalition to organize people. And so that's how we got involved.
Josh came and told me that we were being threatened with our home. So he asked me, Renee, can you do something? So I said, let's start the organization. So me, Miss Tracy, Miss Mary, William Woods, we started the organization in 2015. If we hadn't started the organization, they were going to close this building down.
And they wouldn't let us have our meetings in the building, so we had to go across the street. They threatened us with guns. They told us that if we had meetings in the building that we would be evicted.
Legal Aid and the Homeless Coalition, they informed us that if you form this committee and you meet at least once a month, they must let you participate in the running of this building.
That was the first step to bring everyone together so we could work together on saving our building.
All we wanted was decent housing, decent common areas, pipes that don't leak. You don't want, I'm on the top floors, so I'm in a special position, but imagine if my toilet leaked and leaked down on my neighbor downstairs. Oh my God, that was happening a lot. That needs to go away. sewage bubbling up from the basement, mold. All we were asking for is for that to make that go away.
We created a list of demands to improve our conditions.
Actually, they were made up by me and some of the other residents when we did a walk with legal aid through the building.
And we sent it to HUD, we sent it to City Council, we sent it to management and ownership. Then we circulated a petition regarding poor conditions in the building. After that, we sent a letter to management and owners to discuss the demands.
Ultimately, the city of Cincinnati sued the owner of the property in 2015 for ongoing code violations, asked the state court to declare the property a public nuisance.
Historically, public nuisance laws across the country and in Cincinnati had served to blame people living in affordable housing and had served to close and demolish affordable housing.
It is sometimes the case that city government really wants buildings to close, wants housing to be eliminated, and that was never the case in this litigation, which is extremely fortunate because it meant that the residents were really only fighting the owner and were only sometimes adversarial to the bank to make sure that there were resources available, but not to the city. So ultimately the state court case progressed, the bank foreclosed, and that became combined with the public nuisance case. And it was at that point that the tenant organization decided that they needed to respond to this lawsuit, that they needed to have a voice, and that they needed to intervene, and gave consent to legal aid to represent them in that matter.
We officially joined the lawsuit against the owners because the owners were taking the money that HUD was giving them and not put a dime in here, saying they was, but they wouldn't do the thing.
The state court found that the Alms was a public nuisance, and that sounds threatening and bad, but ultimately it was a catalyst for change because it allowed a receiver to be appointed, and the bank who had a mortgage on the property was able to fund that receivership. A receivership is where the court takes control and possession of a property away from the owner, and usually it's for a specific purpose. It happens often and routinely in foreclosure cases, but it also happens through Ohio's public nuisance statute. And in the case of a public nuisance receivership, the goal of the receiver who's appointed by the court, who's really an officer of the court, is to remedy and abate the nuisance. So between 2015 and 2017, a receiver was appointed to manage the property, stood in the shoes of the owner, and the goal of that receivership was to eliminate the nuisance conditions.
After the courts had granted receivership of the property, the owners, the Puritz family, weren't even allowed on the property. And all the rent monies went to this third party to administer repairs.
So now here's another thing. How do you get to the point where the receivers are saying, what do you guys need? This is where the Alms Association comes in at. The Alms Association says, okay, we live here, we got elderly people that can't climb to the 12th floor. That's a long walk, believe me. The elevators kept breaking down. Or one would go and one wouldn't go. So we said, no, we want brand new Otis elevators. That was a certain amount of money. Then we wanted brand new other things like light fixtures. It's a lot different in here than it was at first because the lighting was really screwed up and it was flooding down there on the first floor. So they had the city to come in and re-concrete all that concrete down there. As you walk down the hill towards the dairy, that's all been redone. Like I said, if you go in the back playground, that's all been painted back over again because it was all rusty with lead and stuff. Okay, so we had them to fix the chain link fences around here, come in and cut the grass. We didn't have security. Now we got armed security.
I got summoned to City Hall. That was after Councilman Smitherman became vice mayor. And he wanted an update on the Alms. He wanted to know if the receiver was doing a good job, is an interim stopgap measure that would lend itself right into the new ownership, if repairs are being done. He wanted to know what was the mood of the residents. Are they still running scared? Are they looking forward to what we at that time were hoping was going to happen?
HUD is funding the receiver to run the property while this case is pending, and all of a sudden HUD said, we're going to pull the subsidy, we are going to eliminate the rent funds for the Alms, and all the residents are going to have to be relocated.
And so when HUD said we're going to close the building, which would put all 200 households out, HUD said, well, it's no big deal, we'll provide you with vouchers.
So they'd already issued a notice. They'd already sent a notice to all the residents that they were intending to cancel the Section 8 subsidies, eliminate the affordability from the building, and then after the fact, scheduled this meeting with the Alms residents, attempting to, quote, consult with them, even though they'd already made the decision to walk away.
I remember when we finally did get a chance to meet with HUD. The residents asked me to be the spokesperson, and I remember saying to them right off the top of my head, you talk about offering us vouchers. This is not Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. These are not golden tickets that guarantee us entrance into some other housing unit. There are no guarantees. And we found out that the vouchers were only good for 30 days. So that means if you hadn't found a place to live in 30 days, you're on your own. Your voucher is meaningless. So to offer that to the large number of heads of household with children, that was not an option. You have no place for us to go. So we decided to continue to fight, so we took them to court.
And HUD was so taken back by the organized response of the residents that when they entered the room, they said, we're here to listen to concerns. We want to hear your input, but we're not going to respond to any questions or anybody's input here today. And so this representative of HUD stood there for about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, and the entire time resident after resident after resident shared a different concern about them closing the property and shared their personal stories as to why the Alms means so much to them.
Our apartments were not just our apartments, they were our homes. They were the only homes we had. When HUD came and told us that we had to leave, they had a meeting. And I thought about what I was going to say. And the first thing, when I stood, I just didn't know. When I stood, the first thing I said was, what did I do? I pay my rent. I keep my apartment clean. Why do I have to move? They have no answer for that. But come to find out, it was all about gentrification.
Federal law says that where the government is going to eliminate a subsidy, they have to consult. They have to meaningfully consult with the tenants in the building. And the case that we made to the court was, no, HUD did not do that. HUD did not take anyone's interest into account other than their own, that really the building was viable, that we come too far in this receivership.
When I went to the special council session, Smitherman did a resolution and donated funds to legal aid to help them fund this all the way through to completion. And I was very moved by that. How many cities literally will dip into the coffers and make a donation to better a situation like this? That was, I knew right then, yeah, we still got a fight ahead of us, but when your city is backing you, you can't lose. You just can't. And that plus the resolution they also said, when you go to federal court, we will send a resolution to be included as part of the testimony. Well, when our great court date came, not only did he send the resolution, he actually sent a city representative, and it was like, oh, it's a done deal. And they spoke eloquently and admirably in favor of keeping the alms affordable, and for whatever means was necessary to keep our HAP program in place so that we wouldn't have to be displaced.
The legal aid was phenomenal. You know, they were phenomenal because I'll tell you, when we went to court against HUD, she was so prepared. And then they had 2 or 3 lawyers down there. They were befuddled. They never expected this. And then the amazing thing, the judge decided that the residents from the Alms who had come to court, he was going to allow us to sit in the jury box so that we could see and we could be seen. Because he wanted them to know these are the people who you're trying to displace. And and then the lawyer from the city told us he had never ever experienced it before. He had never seen that happen before, and that gave us a little bit more hope. And so now, when we sit there and watch Stephanie go through her presentation, and confronting their lawyers, and their lawyers, see, they thought it was just gonna be a cakewalk. They just thought that they were gonna come to court and win like they normally always do, because people roll over, and they get that, and they see they use intimidation tactics, and so they try to force you out through intimidation. But I told them, again, back to that meeting, I told them, let me be clear about this. I am not going anywhere. Y'all will have to tear this building down around my head. Y'all will not take my key. And I meant that. And see, that became the phrase, the catchphrase for everybody.
So the federal court case really hinged on whether HUD had meaningfully consulted with both the Residents Association at the Alms and also with the city of Cincinnati.
They had no idea that residents could come together and fight them and have a legitimate case, because the judge told us, they told him in open court, y'all were not prepared at all. These people are prepared. You know what I'm saying? What y'all did was try to illegally evict them. First, you tried to evict them without even notifying them. They made a bunch of major mistakes that our lawyer pointed out, and then the judge backed up because he said, this is the law. This is how this is done.
The federal court found in favor of the residents, granted the preliminary injunction, and that was meaningful. And HUD ultimately withdrew its attempt to eliminate the Section 8 from the building and allowed the state court case to continue. Ultimately, through the state court case, the property was sold to a preservation purchaser called Related Affordable, who has a great track record in the Midwest of purchasing similarly distressed properties, including in the Chicago area, and substantially renovating and rehabbing.
That picture was taken the day we went to court, and we came outside and we stood on that courtroom step, and you can look at that picture and look at our faces, and you can tell we knew we had won.
And the federal case set precedent that other cities can use. And so people should organize themselves and should fight for what they need to live a safe and healthy life.
We're getting an owner here now who is accustomed to dealing with HUD. They come out of New York City. So, if they can deal with them up there, they can definitely deal with them here.
Related prides themselves as being a restoration kind of organization. They actually have people in there now trying to restore the original beauty of the cove ceilings. Now, the original plan had been to turn the ballroom, since it's such a vast, vast area, into a combination of a workout center for the residents and also a media center for those who don't have their own internet and computer equipment, that they will be able to come and sit down. We could teach the children how to use computers and to help them, assist them with their homework. We discussed also using it as a possible daycare facility and as our community room, which got taken away by related, but hey, if they're gonna swap out the community room we had for the big ballroom, we'll take that.
All we gotta do now is maintain these people's property in a proper fashion that they would expect, because we have to show them that we are going to respect their property. We are going to do the right thing by them and this building. And we should all correlate. The pieces should fit. See, because it's not over, we still have to do our part.
And the Residents Association is being allotted some space so that we can have a real office, so that we can continue to keep this momentum going, this positive momentum of bringing this property up to what it should be, and keeping the residents involved in actively participating in helping.
The new owners promise to, this is the deal, that they're gonna fix, they're not moving people in. They got 200 apartments in here. They're not gonna move people in because they're gonna fix up apartments and then move us in there. Then once they get through with ours, and each apartment gonna get its own assessment. So basically they'll come in and look at the apartment and say, what does it need?
They decided to relocate us right here within the building, and we thought maybe they would do it floor by floor. Aha, they had a better plan working with the architects and the project managers. And the best thing to do is to deal with all the identical units at one time. So, I'm 1103, everyone all the way down to 403 will be moved into vacant units that have already been renovated for a short time. And once our units are finished, we get to move back into brand new units where they're going to be replacing everything, the stoves, the refrigerators, the sinks, everything. So the flooring, paint jobs, those who have holes in the walls, they will be drywalled and repaired. And they're talking about air conditioning every unit, which would be unheard of. Yeah, we've got the electrics for it. Nobody's ever done it.
Related Affordable, who's the company purchasing the Alms, they're a preservation purchaser that plans to put quite a bit of their own money into the property, and then also apply for LIHTC dollars, low-income housing tax credits, which is money that you can just put directly into the property for big renovations. And then part of the stipulations of using those tax dollars on renovations of affordable housing is it places a 30-year usage agreement on the property, meaning that if they get granted those funds and they get applied to the building, then the Alms will be open and affordable for at least another 30 years.
Over the years, there's been disputes with HUD and other things with potentially losing the project-based Section 8 contract here. We worked really closely with HUD to make sure that the Section 8 contract was maintained, and not only that, but extended. So we signed a new 20-year renewal agreement with HUD for the project-based Section 8 agreement, which is the longest term that they offer. So rest assured that the property will continue to be maintained as affordable housing. And under the HUD program, nothing should really change. All the income or the rent that you pay will continue to be calculated under the same methodology that is being calculated right now based on percentage of your income. In addition to the Section 8 contract being renewed, we also obtained financing from Ohio Housing with low-income housing tax credits. And so there's an additional affordability component that is being layered on top of the Section 8 program, which will also ensure the long-term affordability of the project for at least the next 30 years. That is all units will be affordable for incomes at or below 60% of the area median income, but the HUD agreement continues as well to make sure that it's affordable at all different income levels. So hopefully that's usually the first question that I get is about the affordability, and that was our #1 priority, to make sure that that affordability remained here at Alms Hill. We just acquired the property on October 30th, so it was an interesting process, as you can imagine. This will be the first time I've bought a property through a receivership that had to go through a whole court system, and we were able to navigate it with your support and the support of the city, because I think everybody in the city really wanted to see this property maintained as affordable housing, but also really improved as this neighborhood continues to improve.
I just cannot say enough about the people at the Alms and their ability to get through a very difficult situation, to survive enormous stress, and I am completely inspired by them and their ability to work together and to work with me as their lawyer. It's really been like one of the biggest privileges of my life.